I've got Nick beside me, Jaden on the bench. Pretty decent week of sport. Weather wasn't too good in Sydney. Big upset we saw over the weekend with the West Tigers. How was your weekends?
Very quiet. The weather ruins everything. If it rains, you don't go out. You don't really want to go to the footy either. So you just stay home, maybe bet a bit more than you used to.
You're probably betting on each game a bit more frequently. So it just depends if you're up or down, and that makes your weekend.
I'd say though, I probably watched more NBA than I did league on the weekend.
Well, it's finals time, and that's the only time anyone ever watches the NBA finals. I mean, gets into it a bit more. Jay, what'd you get up to on the weekend?
Yeah, not too much. Same. Rain ruins everything.
It does. It does.
I wanted to play tennis, but couldn't get you available because the courts were rained out.
Oh, we'll have plenty of tennis coming up during Wimbledon, so keep an eye out. But we are live today on YouTube at the JBK Show. We're also live on Pickle Studios TikTok and Jon-Bernard K TikTok. So head over to the YouTube channel, the JBK Show, and subscribe. Fan question of the week, always our favourite question. Fans throw a little bit of a spanner in the works with the question. What's the fan question for this week?
Fan question of the week comes from Locke Ryan, and it is, who is more likely to make their Origin debut, Nicho Hynes or Campbell Graham?
Who's more likely to make their Origin debut?
I'd say Nicho Hynes. I think his form is just too good for them to omit him from the team. Yes, Jerome Luai, they say, has got the combination with Nathan Cleary, which I don't think people really care about.
Yeah, but Campbell Graham has been killing it for South. He just scored a hat-trick over the weekend. We'll probably touch on that a bit later. But, I mean, he's just saying, I want to get picked. And it all depends on if Brad Fittler goes with Joseph Suaalii, which a lot of people say is the form winger of the comp, best last tackle option in the comp.
He's playing centre.
Yeah, but I'm saying if he's going to get picked on the wing, he played wing all of last year. If he goes with Joseph Suaalii, Campbell Graham doesn't get picked because he played turbo in the centres. It all depends which way he wants to go. I personally think they're going to go with Nicho Hynes because he's the best 5'8" in the comp at the moment, and he's a Dally M medalist 5'8".
Ultimately, I think they both make their Origin debut this year. Nicho Hynes will be 5'8", and Campbell Graham will probably play on the wing. That's just the way
I'd say
is.
Campbell Graham's less likely to make it over Nicho Hynes. Nicho Hynes just playing himself into the team.
Yeah, no, and because he's a Dally M, and he's a great bloke, everyone puts out how much of a great bloke he is. I think if you didn't pick him, there'd probably be a bit of an outcry.
Brandy, one of the selectors, has been copping it. I've seen his radio show, saying that how come you keep neglecting Nicho Hynes? He's saying, listen, mate, no one's discounting how good Nicho Hynes is playing. I think they'll come under scrutiny if they don't pick Nicho Hynes and they go with Luai again and say they lose that first game, they're under the pump. And I think Brad Fittler does not want to lose this series because his job's on the line. So it's a big call.
Speaking on Brandy, if they lose this series this year, is he gone? Or is Fittler and him gone?
Wipe out everyone. If you can't win, I mean, it's not
because he's
like
made some bad selections.
Last year in that first Origin game, yes. But, on paper, you have the better talent to pick from. So they should be winning. If they can't win, it's on the coaching. Don't you agree?
Who would you put as the coach? Who would you propose for the new New South Wales
I love
coach
Jeff
if Fittler
Tuvey.
doesn't?
Jeff Tuvey's always been a fan favourite of mine.
never got the respect he deserved of what he carried on from what Des Hasler did at Manly. I'd say it's not going to be a Trent Barrett. It's not going to be an Anthony Griffin. Someone that's maybe a
Tim Sheens.
Nah, I don't know. Who's putting their hand up?
I think
Laurie Daly's
Jeff
done.
Jeff Tuvey would be an ideal fit. He's a great NRL coach, did well, took his team to a grand final.
He just got welcomed back at Manly as well.
So I think maybe he's just trying to introduce himself back into coaching.
As a New South Wales coach?
I think he knocked it back a few times during his NRL coaching career. I think that'd actually be perfect because he's not coaching anyone in the NRL. If he doesn't coach the Dragons, Des is a perfect op for New South Wales coach.
Yeah. Considering they're on just as much as your NRL coaches to
they're on about
games a year.
$400,000 a year just to coach 3 games and maybe watch a few games, and you already know who you're selecting.
I think I have a dream job. That's the dream job.
Coach New South Wales, whatever Brad Fittler's doing. Pretend to commentate, not at the highest level on Channel 9, and then pick the best 28 players from New South Wales. But who would you say your team of the week was from last round?
My team of the week was the Canberra Raiders. Everyone knows Jack Wyden signed earlier that week. Very emotional week. You saw them post-game. Jack Wyden was crying. Ricky Stewart was crying. For them to get the win by a field goal over the Dolphins, one of the greatest wins of the week. I was happy for Ricky Stewart. I'm hoping they can make the 8 still because I'm a big fan of Ricky. I just don't think they have the squad to maybe do it further down in the year as it goes on. But for them to get the win, I was really happy for them. They're my team of the week.
They needed that win. Ricky Stewart was crying in the post-match press conference. Humanises him. He's like a father to all the Canberra players. Even Jack Wyden was crying after the game because if they had lost that game, it would have been all the talk up in the lead up of the week. How is he playing if he's going to the Rabbitohs? So they got the win. Ricky Stewart doesn't understand why he wants to leave, especially if he's leaving for less money. He said it flat out after the press conference, after the game. He's like, I don't know why he wants to leave, but it's his decision. I back him 100%.
Which I really like, because everyone was coming out and going, oh, how are they going to operate once Jack Whiten's obviously signed? But Ricky Stewart said, hey, I still love him. It's his decision. I wish him the best. We'll play well for the rest of the season. Hopefully we can do as best as we can.
My team of the week goes to the West Tigers. We've been talking it up all season. They have one of the worst records in the NRL. They hadn't won a game up until this point. Everyone counted them out if they're going to go up against a Penrith at Penrith's home ground.
It was in Bathurst, but
was in
more or
Bathurst.
less their home ground.
More or less. And at the end of the day, all the stats leading up into the game, you had Luke Brooks not winning a game for 365 days. Api Coruscant losing more games in his Tigers career than he did in his whole Penrith career. So everything was against them. I don't know, you had a bit of a feeling you didn't want to touch the game.
I purposely left Penrith out of my multi this week. I thought Nathan Cleary wasn't going to play. I don't know.
There was talks in the lead up that he wasn't playing.
If you're the Tigers and there's talks about an opposition team resting players against your full strength
Is
team.
it disrespectful?
It's major.
It happened a lot. It happened a lot last season, but full credit to the Tigers because
I was genuinely happy for the Tigers. They played well. Yes, it was raining and that probably put Penrith off their game. But getting a win in the NRL, it does still count as a win. And they've finally got their first win of the season,
Yeah.
so credit to the Tigers.
To be fair, they played well against Manly last week for the majority of the game. They were the better team against Manly.
Shout out to the NRL Roast who immediately, as soon as Luke Brooks' streak was broken, eat, sleep, break the streak. Pretty much what Brock Lesnar did to the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. The Tigers officially broke their streak. Luke Brooks had a top game, and that goes into my player of the round is Luke Brooks. 240 20s. Again, the weather did help them. It was a scrappy game of footy, but they did have to hold on. They had a late barrage in the back end of that game where the Penrith Panthers looked like they were going to do what they did earlier in this season and just go on and win the game. And you don't know whether the Tigers can hold on and close out games. They finally closed one out. You saw how ecstatic they were. They all hugged each other after the game. It was like they won a grand final, and it was. The Tigers fans all over Instagram jokingly saying, yes, we're winning the comp from here. That's not going to be the case, but they deserve the win. Luke Brooks, again, put the team on his back. I think he was one of the best players on ground.
Yeah.
Full respect to him. Finally got the win.
I think I was mostly happy for Luke Brooks. Seeing him finally get the win after all the shitty cops from fans, media. Yes, he's a good player. Yes, he plays on a shit team as well, which kind of hampers his performance and he doesn't get the respect he deserves. If he played on any other team, whether it be the Roosters, Melbourne, he'd be a top 5 half in the comp. And I'm happy to say that because he does play well. And the weekend was an example of that. 240 20s, took control of the game.
Against quality opposition.
And outplayed Nathan Cleary.
It's not like he was doing it against a Bulldogs or a Dragons. This was against the best of the last 2 years.
Yeah, he had a try assist. One of the 2 tries they scored came off him. As well as that, I feel as if the coaching at the Tigers might
Limit him?
Yeah, really, really restrict him from playing his game. Like you put him at Melbourne or Roosters where the halves play a bit more freely and no diss against the Tigers, but better structure and the halves stand out. Like what do you think of that in terms of the coaching?
I'm looking forward to him leaving the Tigers. I think his time will come to an end.
I want to see him at a Penrith or a Melbourne, even playing under a Wayne Bennett at the Dolphins and just let him
get him to unlock his abilities.
Yeah. I guess we'll see where he ends up. But he received a lot of support from the likes of Mitchell Moses, Scotty Brooks, his brother, just saying get that up here, finally getting the win. So that was unreal for Brooksy. Who was your player of the round?
My player of the week, we did speak about him earlier, was Campbell Graham, scoring a hat trick.
3 tries.
Really, really putting on a good performance to show the Origin selectors that he wants to get selected. For me, though, his nickname Stretch, is that the worst nickname of all time?
No, Stretch because it's like a serial killer. He's frightening.
I just know because I thought he was lanky. I never understood it.
He's a lanky figure, and you wouldn't leave him alone with a baby or something like that. And well, he looks scary.
He does. He looks like a strange.
Yeah, that was the talk
bloke.
around the Origin camp.
More like a pedophile scary?
No, they just say like, look, he's a.
I mean, he's not the best looking bloke, but he's a great player. So I think credit to him.
Mate, the long locks. I think he's a good looking bloke. I'd go him if I was a woman. If I saw him at
Coogee Pab?
At Coogee
Or
Pab,
Clovelly
or-
We're not going to see him there.
No, maybe see the South players at the Wednesday night at the Sheaf with the kids.
Yeah.
I'd have a crack at Campbell Graham.
But yeah, credit to him. He scored a hat trick, and he's probably going to get selected, like we said before, for New South Wales.
I guess we'll see. But unfortunate news that came out during the week was immediately after the games were played was Ryan Papenhausen goes on the Matty John show and says, unfortunately, he's not going to be back anytime soon. He's got a quad deficiency and it's a little bit complicated. He doesn't know when he's going to come back, which is a bit disappointing because everyone was forecasting Papi coming back at
round 10.
Round 8, round 10, and they want to see him back on the field. Melbourne are still playing some good football. They had the week off this week. Nick Meaney's playing unbelievable. It's not like he's going to have to earn his way into the spot, into the fullback spot, but I don't know. We want to see Papenhausen back. I think he's probably ready to go. He said once he's under that 10% leeway of quad deficiency or something like that, he'll be straight back into the team. But we want to see him back.
I mean, quad deficiency sounds extremely vague. I feel like, what is that? It's just too much strain. You're running and it hurts too much. Like,
I don't think. I just mean it's not built enough.
It's not built enough. So
I mean, I don't think his legs were ever built enough.
I think we called it back in round 3 when he was still posting the rehab shots that one of his legs looked like a pole, and he's just slowly getting back. He's slowly doing more weights. So, you don't want, especially now with all these hip drops, and if someone hip drops Ryan Papenhausen, his leg snaps.
Compound fracture in his ankle.
I don't want to put the mock on him, knock on wood, but once he's confident enough to get the load of an NRL game in him, then he'll be back.
It's disappointing to hear that he's going to be out longer because you do want to see Melbourne full strength, and him being at fullback is Melbourne full strength. They've been playing well or okay without him, but once he gets back in there, the electricity that he provides at fullback, it'll be good to see, and I'm really looking forward to it.
How Latrell came back on the back end of last season, again, he went overseas, got his hamstring operated on, and then had an unbelievable impact for South. Will Papenhausen provide the same impact that Latrell had for South for Melbourne?
Yes, I think even just support play up the middle. Meaney does it well, but just not as good as Papenhausen does. Papenhausen's just quicker, so as long as he's been able to repair his speed, then they should be able to do that.
Where does Meaney go from here? If Papenhausen comes back into the squad, goes into fullback, does Meaney go back into that 14 utility role, or does he go out to the outside backs?
I'd put him on the right wing. I think he'd probably be a safer defender than Warbrick, and maybe a better finisher as well. I think he's just not a classier player, but he's just more reliable.
Would you bring him back to a team like the Dogs or the Tigers
or
Meaney?
somewhere? Never let him go.
Meaney going to Melbourne has put his salary up like by 200 grand at the very least.
What it does with every player.
Every player that goes, every first grader that's like, he's got some potential that goes to Melbourne, like Nico Hines, goes on to be either a Dalian medalist or inflates their salary to another 200, 300,000.
Maybe except Tarek Sims. I think he's struggling there.
He hasn't really played that much.
That's more so injury though.
Yeah. He missed the tackle against the Warriors.
But who knows? Freddie Fittler might pick him for game 1 of Origin, judging by how New South Wales select. But going on to the hip drops, again, been a discussion all week. We put out a sketch during the week that the referees don't really know what a hip drop is. Jeremiah Nanai just got done. 4 weeks he's going to be sitting on the sideline because Haminuele is going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks as well with a MCL strain from his late in the game hip drop that he copped. Again, do you think it was a little bit harsh? Wasn't really needed. I don't know if you can tell if there's intent or not. What do you think of Nanai getting 4 weeks for the hip drop?
It's extremely harsh. I think, as Ivan Cleary said, these are accidents, and the only way to avoid a hip drop is to deliberately let go of the player and let him make a line break. So
Haminuele threw the ball directly at him. It was bad aim. He kind of missed him. Do you think he thought there was intent in it, or is he just trying to get him down? Is this what the players are taught when they're in the wrestling room? 2 up top, 1 at the bottom. Use your weight to get him down. Get back on side.
It's not even that. It's just a natural tackling process. If someone's running at your full pace and they're taking your body with you, you're going to fall down and maybe drop your hips to try and sandbag yourself to get them down. Just
use your weight.
Yeah, you're not going to let go of them and say, I hope I don't land on his ankle.
Especially if you're a smaller player.
Yeah, there's never any intent with a hip drop. Like if someone wanted to go put it on your opposition number, you do it within that tackle and within that contact.
Yeah. It's not like it's a flop where the guy's lying on the ground.
You're getting a actual fine that you need to pay. You're getting suspended and potential sin bin. Like they're 3 things that no player wants to do, regardless if you fucking hate the opposition player.
Yeah,
you're not doing that intentionally, and it's stupid. And it's
each year at Magic Round, there's always a crackdown special, right? We've got Magic Round coming up this weekend. State of Origin coming up as well, May 31st. Is the hip drop going to be a big thing? Imagine you're playing Origin. It's the height of rugby league, and we got 2 players in the bin throughout the game because of a hip drop.
Everything gets forgotten in Origin in terms of the new rules that are getting rolled out in the NRL. They go back to penalties, or they get ignored for Origin, and then the players.
I'm going to make a prediction right now that this weekend of rugby league at Suncorp for Magic Round is going to be shrouded in sin bins on sin bins on sin bins because of hip drops, high contact with the head, and then we're going to have a big blow up in the media. We're going to have a massive blow up in the media.
Over under on sin bins, 10. 10 and a half. Over under.
Bro, there's almost one a game in each game.
That's what I know, but I think there's been a record of like 40 plus so far this season.
I'd say across this weekend, unless they make a concerted effort to say, guys, please don't, referees don't ruin the weekend, I say there's going to be over 10 sin bins in.
So over 10 and a half?
I'm telling you, in Origin, there won't be one sin bin for a hip drop.
I would say yes, there's going to be a sin bin.
I won't, and I'll put money on that with you.
There should be you know how international rules, they keep it separate and they play a different rounds, like shoulder charges are allowed in the international game or something like that, or there's not 2 refs on and there's no 6 again rule. They should keep hip drops out of State of Origin. It will ruin the game. If it's a tight game between New South Wales and Queensland and Cameron Munster gets done for a hip drop with 20 minutes to go or 10 minutes to go, that changes the whole game. And you don't want to see that during Origin.
I'd put my house on under 10 and a half sin bins this week just because they're going to make a concerted effort not to. And I will take that bet. Someone will get sin bin for a hip drop in Origin. No, it's too big of a thing not to get sin bin now.
It's going to ruin the game. But Graham Annesley, the referee's boss, came out and said he wants to give a definition of some sort or clarifies what the hip drop is. I watched the full video. He did not clarify anything. In fact, I was left more confused. No one knew what he's like. Oh, I don't understand the confusion around why there's a tier grading of what a hip drop is. Some are going to be more impactful than others. Some leave players injured. So what? You're just going to there's going to be people more in the judiciary on the basis of if someone's injured or not.
Severity of injury.
Yeah,
it's like
on the
listening
severity
to
of injury.
Joe Biden speaking.
Yeah,
like you're left more confused than when he started.
He then went on to say that it's also on not all of them are going to be called in live play, and I understand the refs can't call all of them. They don't make too much sense as well. They're going to have to be left to the match review committee afterwards. I understand that, but you still haven't defined what one is. Because if a smaller player like Luke Keary misses a tackle, then has to go back and get onto someone, use his weight to pull someone down, that's a hip drop. Luke Keary himself in a post-match press conference said, I do 8 hip drops a game. I'm 75 kilos. And they go unnoticed. Only when someone gets injured, they're going to be calling him. It's an epidemic in the game that no one understands right now. It's just going to keep resulting in sin bins and more confusion for the fans.
I'll be honest, I didn't know who Graham Annesley was. I thought him and Andrew Abdo were the same person.
No, he's the referee's boss.
I thought he just was like a
But
NRL
I think
CEO
he's left people more confused and no one knows what it is. It's going to keep resulting in sin bins.
That seems like a fake job, referee's boss.
Well, he just clarifies the calls over the weekend.
That was Gavin Badger's role.
I think he trains with the referees.
Shouldn't a ref be the referee's boss? Like, shouldn't you be like captain coach in the referees?
Well, he just tries to clarify all the negativity around it.
Graham's never actually reffed a game.
Phil Gould, who leaves a lot of commentary on Twitter, said he's proposed to the NRL about briefing all the coaches and the experts in the game on how the clubs should combat it. Should they change the way they teach defence? Should they change the way they are in the wrestling room? What's the best outcome for clubs now? Do they have to change the way they tackle?
I think going now back to Phil Gould, he does put out a lot of tweets.
He does.
He came out amidst all the Kyle Flanagan to Manly rumours. So what happened on the weekend? Kyle Flanagan got dropped from the Bulldogs.
Again, dropped to New South Wales Cup. He played hooker for New South Wales Cup for the Bulldogs on the weekend.
And then it came out that Manly had signed him and he'd be going to Manly. It'd be announced in the coming days. Then all of a sudden you hear Cameron Ciraldo say, Kyle's rang me. He doesn't know where this has come from. He's not signing with Manly.
Buzz Rothfield doubled down on the story and said, Phil Gould's flat out lying to you. The deal is all but done. Phil Gould again
goes
out on
to Twitter.
Phil Gould addresses everything on Twitter, whether it's hip drop, whether it's player signings, injury updates for the Bulldogs teams. Again, he says, nothing has come past me. Nothing has crossed my desk. Kyle Flanagan has not signed with anyone. I'm going to call it right now. Phil Gould's a flat-out liar, as in he'll say one thing to the public. He's like an Elon Musk, one thing to the public, and there's 10 things going on behind the scenes. If Buzz Rothfield says his sources have said that Kyle Flanagan was all but a done deal at Manly, it probably was, and it hasn't been cleared by the Bulldogs.
Shane Flanagan's come out and said, I think his time at the Bulldogs is coming to an end. He has come out, and I think the coaches have come out and said Shane Flanagan had no part in Kyle going to Manly because he's an assistant coach there. But if your father's saying your time at a club's done, I think it's been an elephant in the room the whole year that Kyle Flanagan was going to get dropped.
For the last 2 years, I think management have wanted him out. And I actually kind of feel sorry for Kyle because he's done really all he can in that 7 role at the club. I don't think he's had that many of bad games. I think Bulldogs fans are expecting too much of him.
He tries hard. Every time he goes out there, like he plays to the best of his ability.
I don't think he's that bad defensively. He was on the outer at the Roosters. The Bulldogs picked him up. And look at Sam Walker. He's on the outer at the Roosters again, dropped consecutively. Do the Bulldogs want to pick up a Sam Walker now, and then we'll be disappointed with his performance if he doesn't get the Bulldogs winning? I think he's kind of treated unfairly. I personally heard that they tried to sort out a deal for him to go to England. They couldn't get it done. Then with all the Manly discussions, they wanted to swap for Josh Schuster, and they couldn't get that done as well. So I don't know. It doesn't look like he'll be in the first grade squad anytime soon because they just beat the Dragons in a close game, and they were happy with how Carl Olopolotu, is that how you pronounce it?
I'm not going to try it.
I'm not going to try pronounce it and butcher it, but they were happy with how Carl played.
Yeah. But speaking of Josh Schuster,
yes,
made headlines during the week for reasons.
He made headlines because he's on $800,000, and that kind of went under the radar. Is he worth his $800,000 at the moment with the amount of games that he's played? But he also made headlines because there was a bit of a scuffle at training. He's gone over to Dean Madison. He's gave him a slap over the head like that.
I mean, you could have just showed me videos.
Yeah, sorry. It was a slap over the head like that. I saw a couple of the slaps over his Instagram story. Quite entertaining, slapping Dean Madison over the head. But then he also commented on his haircut and said it was a shit haircut. So I don't know if Dean Madison was offended at the slap or the shit haircut. I haven't seen Dean Madison's head. It was probably a bad haircut. I don't know if he gets his fade in Bankstown or over at Manly.
Same barber as DCE. And
yeah, probably same barber as the boys. But again, little scuffle. Josh Alloway said he got in and sorted it out. Does it deserve to be making headlines like that? And is Josh Schuster under too much scrutiny because he's got so much expectation on him?
Yeah, he's under too much scrutiny, strictly because of his contract, but that does come with the territory. I don't like players getting into fights at training. I never understand how that works. It happens in the NFL all the time.
Listen,
and they go, it's part of the game.
Testosterone. People are competing for their spots. They're having a laugh sometimes. You're slapping him over the head for his haircut. Nothing in it. Dean Madison, relax.
You can't be fighting at training though, even if it's a reserve grade player, because you guys got to go back to training. And I don't know about Dean Madison, but if I get into a fight with someone and I lose, I know their reports said that they swung and miss, but if someone got a good shot on me, I'm thinking about that all week. I'm not sleeping. I'm thinking about getting him back.
Speaking of...
But don't you think Josh Schuster always ups Manly's game?
Yeah, when he plays,
every time he's in the squad, Manly look 10 times better. Whether it's him and Turbo in the team, they compete with the big teams. And when he's out and they've got Cooper Johns in there and Turbo missing, they're not the same when they attack, and they lose games.
Yeah, that's why I think they're probably going to lose this week against Brisbane. Josh Schuster's still out. So
you've got Turbo back into the team.
Speaking of Schuster and Manly behind the scenes, so we know that Fulton left to go to the Tigers.
Yes.
I think that was from Monday.
Yeah.
So what effect do you think that will have? Because he had such a personal relationship with all these young players coming through and giving them their opportunity.
I don't think it makes too much of a difference. If you're under contract at a place, unless they're on the outer.
When you got relationships and getting boys from the West.
When we played at Manly, Fulton picked the teams from 20s, from New South Wales Cup and first grade.
Big impact.
He put his finger in every
And he was the one that went out to Blacktown and got all these young guns from the West. And a lot of those boys made their debuts for the Manly first grade team. Manasi Fainu. I'd say Hamoli was a Scott Fulton project that worked. He'll probably play. He'll probably play Origin this year. Tavita Funa as well, who plays
account
first grade.
Yeah,
I'd say so.
So
West Tigers want to cash in. West Tigers want to cash in on his reach into the West and capitalise on their juniors and how he brings them up. I think it's a great snag for the West Tigers, and I'd be worried if I was Manly because a lot of people are saying he's going to go on a poaching spree. So I guess we'll see where that ends up.
I think they'll be fine. Salary cap limits players moving too much, at least a lot of players moving in droves, so they should be fine.
Well, disappointment for us because we like this player and we touched on it a little bit there, was Sam Walker. Omitted from this week's team from the Roosters. Even though Momirovski's injured, you would have thought Manu goes straight to the centres. They bring Sam Walker straight up. Every Roosters fan you talk to, it's a 1 to 2 week thing. He'll be back up into the team. Victor Radley, as soon as he got dropped, said, hey, Sam's a good kid. He'll be straight back up into the team in no time. And they're not picking him this week.
The arrogance of Trent Robinson. Look, I preface this by saying Trent Robinson knows infinite more about football than I do.
Full respect to Trent Robinson. He takes a shit on my rugby league knowledge. He's won multiple comps with the Roosters. He knows what he's doing. But is this the right decision?
That's why I say, I preface it, he's much smarter than me. But Sam Walker should be playing. It's pretty rude that he's not playing. First of all, Drew Hutchinson is not a centre. You speak to most Roosters fans.
But defensively, I will say he does the job at centre.
Not really.
Yeah, he does.
And Manu in defence looks a lot stronger.
Yeah.
Like,
Then what, Sam Walker?
Then I'm saying Sam Walker. Like, I'm not saying Walker's a liability in defence, but you're not.
Teams targeting.
Players aren't running at Joseph Manu the same way that they're running at the same way that they're spotting Sam Walker.
I'm just saying,
it tightens up that full Roosters defensive line.
If you've got a deficiency at centre, put your strongest centre back to centre, which is Manu, and let Sam Walker come in. You've disciplined him by sending him back down to reserve.
I'm just saying, we said it to the Roosters fans earlier on. They had two of their easiest wins over the last week. I mean, I say it wasn't easy wins, but I'm saying easiest opposition. They had the Dragons, and then they just played the Warriors. They didn't even beat the Warriors that convincingly. Okay, it was in New Zealand.
They scored 14 points. They're not doing that well.
But I think the main thing there was they kept Warriors to nil. And would they have kept Warriors to nil without Manu at 6 and I guess solidifying that defensive line?
I guess
that's what their main issue was.
Paul Crawley has come out on the Daily Telegraph article and said that Walker's time is all but over at the Sydney Roosters.
Daily Telegraph headline, Walker's Roosters career looks all but over. Now that does seem a bit exaggerated. I don't think you could call his career over at the Roosters.
It's an opinion piece from Paul Crawley, but geez, if they just chew up and spit out halfbacks like they did Kyle Flanagan, if they do the same to Walker, they've got a problem with developing a young 7.
Well, the thing is as well, last year, everyone was saying Sam Walker's the best thing, he's the next great Origin half. How in, 6 months, you could turn from being the future of your club to being dropped and almost...
to a New South Wales Cup number 9.
And completely omitted from your team.
Apparently, there have been some Queensland clubs that have shown interest, and a lot of people have been calling, return home, Sam. Go back to a Queensland team. A Broncos would snap him up, I think, even though they've got Ezra Mann there.
Dolphins,
a Gold Coast Titans. Teams that need a good 7, mate, the Bulldogs would probably knock on the door there as well. So
I think it's only a matter of time if they continue to not select him on purpose as well. It's not like this is they've got too much talent to handle and he's missing out by chance. This is Robbo purposely leaving him out of the team, putting in a subpar centre and not playing Sam Walker, who's probably the future of your club if he reaches his potential.
It reminds me of like a Brodie Croft where he's gone over to Super League, got Man of Steel, which is their equivalent to Dally M, and it's just a waste of talent, which is now in reserve grade and getting shopped around.
But at least when Melbourne dropped Brodie Croft, they had Jarome Hughes playing. And if Papenhausen was injured, they would move Cam Munster to fullback and put Brodie Croft back in the team.
It's not like the Lockie Ilias situation as well, where they dropped him for a week or 2 weeks and then brought him back up into the team. It was like a discipline thing. You've got injuries and you have a 7, an out-and-out 7 that can play, and you've got the best centre in Manu, can just slot into the centres, but they've gone, no, we're not going to pick him. I hope he gets picked into the team very soon. We're big fans of Sam Walker, so I guess we'll see if it's the right decision this week at Magic Round if they can get it done, which I think they will. I guess we'll see. This brings us to our favourite segment of the week, the top 5. You can check out our top 5s on our social at Jon-Bernard K, at the JBK Show this week. All our tips and picks as well at Picklebet. But our top 5 this week, in light of the West Tigers' biggest upset of last week, top 5 upsets of all time.
Top 5 upsets in sports history.
Starting with number 5, the Queensland Origin team in 2020 was one of the biggest upset series I've ever seen in recent history. A group of players that were replacement players that would not be picked in today's age, like with the amount of talent that Queensland have. Like, Jaden, who was picked in this team?
So we've got squad players such as Corey Allen, Jake Friend, Hymel Hunt, Josh Kerr, Dynamis Louis, Philip Sammy, and Brenko and Edric Lee.
So Wayne Bennett, one of the greatest coaches of all time, took a team of replacement players and beat a New South Wales team. Yes, that had injuries, but was a much better squad on paper.
He's doing the same thing this year with the Dolphins.
But I mean, if you looked at that 2020 teams, if you looked at the 2020 teams on paper, even though New South Wales had some injuries, New South Wales should have won that series. And with players like Edric Lee, Brenko Lee, Philip Sammy, Corey Allen,
Dynamis
Louis, players that you wouldn't even think would represent Origin, would represent Queensland in Origin.
Back rower as well? Sorry,
you had Ethan Lowe in there as well.
Even though getting almost man of the series from New South Wales Cup.
Well past his prime as
And
well.
you got to credit Wayne Bennett there, who got the job done for him as well. But that had to be one of the biggest upsets in Origin history, and that's why it's number 5.
At number 4, we have disagreed here, so we'll both be saying a number 4.
Yeah.
But at my number 4, I've gone with Greece winning the 2004 Euros, paying 151-1 going into the tournament. Every Greek person you know, every Malacca talks about this like it was Jesus Christ coming back from the dead. They upset France in the knockout stages. Then they beat host nation Portugal in the final. And I think we've had this before. Every Greek restaurant now has a Euro 2004 special, strictly because of how significant this upset was.
The Greeks don't have a lot going for them. Their economy's in the toilet. Everyone just goes over there in July to have a holiday. They needed this in 2004. And like you said, every time you go get a Euros or something like that, or a Savlaki, they've got the 2004 Euro special on the menu because they live for this. And it was, but we couldn't really split it. My number 4 went to Holly Holm knocking out Ronda Rousey in Melbourne at a massive UFC event. At the time, it was one of the biggest upsets in combat sport. Ronda Rousey was going on a run. She was taking everyone's name, had all the confidence in the world, one of the best in jiu-jitsu, but she got absolutely knocked out by Holly Holm. I think she was paying $1.07 favourite, Ronda Rousey.
$1.05.
$1.05 favourite, and gets knocked out clean by Holly Holm, who didn't have a lot behind her. She wasn't a knockout artist. She was a champion boxer, and knocks her out on one of the biggest stages it was in Melbourne. So in recent memory, that had to be one of the biggest upsets for me.
She was undefeated going into this fight. And I think all the fights were like round 1 finishes. So she was getting it done pretty quickly.
Just before this fight as well, you had male UFC fighters coming out saying, I don't want to fight Ronda Rousey. So she was feared across the full UFC roster. And then Holly Holm came out, her mother Holly Holm came out and dismantled her.
Yeah, Holly Holm was treating her like a boxing bag, just having fun with her.
She had the Irish spirit in her. Who's your number 3?
At number 3, I've gone with Saudi Arabia beating Messi's Argentina in the most recent World Cup. Now, everyone did not expect this. We were at the World Cup. We saw these Saudi fans going crazy.
Absolutely nuts.
To beat them, I think they were down 1-0, then come back and won 2-1. And I think the reaction from the princes in Saudi Arabia and the fans was what made this such a big upset. The way they treated it, beating Messi, who actually went on to win the World Cup, just made it all the more special.
It was a crazy round 1 in the
knockout
World
stage.
Cup.
Yeah. Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
What's the pronunciation? So it was Prince Mohammed bin Salman gifted the team Rolls Royces. Yeah. Right, that's how much it meant to them. The whole team, the full squad, got a fleet of Rolls Royces to celebrate the upset.
And there was a public holiday as well.
And now in Saudi Arabia, they celebrate a public holiday.
I think the Rolls Royces, that's not a cheap car. So for that, just shows you how big of significance this win was for them.
Number 2, I'm going a throwback to some classic boxing. Buster Douglas upsetting Mike Tyson. Now, no one thought Mike Tyson was going to be dealt this loss. At the time, he had a record. What was his record? That was like
record 37-0 with 33 knockouts.
37-0, 33 knockouts. This was just supposed to be another fight to pat Mike Tyson's stats. He wasn't a betting favourite at all either.
Buster Douglas was paying 42-1. And if you go back, 1990, Mike Tyson, scariest person on the planet.
Yeah, baddest man on the planet.
33 knockouts. People were running scared. No one wanted to fight him. Buster Douglas was, I think, not a no-name, but he wasn't a household name fighting Mike Tyson, so no one really gave him a shot in Moscow.
Yeah, the fight took place in Moscow. He stopped Mike Tyson in the 10th round, and it goes down in history as one of the biggest upsets of all time.
Only succeeded by, number 1, Leicester City winning the Premier League in 2016. Yep. Coming into that season, no one even remotely thought that they were a team that could compete. Looking at the Premier League, they've got the big 6 clubs, and I think going back to 1994, only Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City and Manchester United and Arsenal had won the Premier League. So for a no-name club, Leicester City, to come out of nowhere and win the league, it's one of the biggest upsets of all time.
I've got some stats here for you. So Leicester City at the start of the season were 5,000-1.
5,000 to 1.
Betting odds, 5,000-1. Leicester's team was worth a combined value of €28.2 million, opposed to Man City the same year at €910 million.
And I think this year we found out they were paying overs for everyone at Man City as well.
To put that into perspective of how ridiculous that is, Haaland at Man City this year's worth is his current value is 170 million, which is 6 times more than that full Leicester City team.
And if you look at the players, in hindsight, yes, N'Golo Kante, Jamie Vardy, Riyad Mahrez, they're world-class players.
But no one was saying it at the time when they were paying 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League.
And I think betting on them is as good as investing in Bitcoin. That's what the return was. So Leicester City, easy, the biggest upset of all time, winning the Premier League, and I think it probably will never be done again. A squad outside of the big 6 clubs winning a Premier League.
Well, that's our list for the top 5 biggest sporting upsets of all time. You can check out our top 5s on our socials at Jon-Bernard K and at Picklebet, at Pickle Studios on TikTok as well. Great top 5, and we have to give our respect to the Tigers. I mean, they get an honourable mention on that list. They probably ruined everyone's multi last week when they beat Penrith. Yeah. Like Penrith, again, we're $1.12.
Bro, at half time, Penrith were $1.07.
Yeah, so full credit to the Tigers. Ruined everyone's multi, but I reckon they fit in the top 10 as one of the biggest upsets of all time.
Is there a documentary, Leicester City, yet?
No, it'll be coming out soon.
I think, they'll be making a documentary on Leicester City winning the Premier League, for sure. But that's our top 5 for the week. We're going to preview AFL this week. Any big games, any eyes on the AFL this week?
Big thing coming out of the AFL is maybe Collingwood versus Sydney Swans on Sunday at
the MCG. Shouting out a Collingwood game?
Well, they've come back now the last 2 weeks, causing big upsets against St Kilda and the Adelaide Crows. Everyone's calling them the Comeback Kings, but let's add the list to it. Comeback Kings, the Flag Pies. Nick Dacos probably going to win the Brownlow.
Big Dick Dacos.
Big Dick Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos MVP. He's going to win the Brownlow. Collingwood are going to win the flag this year. They're on fire.
Swans cost you a multi this week, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Swans did lose as well to GWS, losing on the siren on a game-winning goal. That's happened to me twice this year now in a Swans game. So I'm very happy for Collingwood to smash the Swans this week. No personal bias there at all.
Well, a big talking point of the week as well was the AFL looking to expand to Tasmania. Prime Minister Albanese's come a little bit under fire because they're going to build another stadium in Tasmania.
Which won't be ready till 2029.
And the AFL's putting significant investment into this team. They do a lot of market research before doing things like this. A lot of people in Tasmania or in the opposition to Albanese are saying this is going to be a waste of a stadium. It's a waste of money. Where are we going to be seeing returns into this? It's across the road from another stadium. But when you think about it, it's going to have a lot of domestic travel going into Tasmania. Tasmanian fans have been longing for an AFL team for a long time, and it solidifies AFL in comparison to other codes as a national game. They've got teams in Western Australia, South Australia, Queensland, and now Tasmania. They are running rings around every domestic code in Australia.
I think it's long overdue. Anyone that follows the AFL knows Tasmanians love their AFL, and it's long overdue since they've actually received a team. They put bids in as early as the 2000s, maybe 2008. I think they try to put a bid in that said 10 years from now, maybe we'll get a team.
Are they getting a team or are they putting Hawthorn down there?
No, they're getting a new team.
No, it's an expansion.
Expansion team, the 19th team. I think they've just got to tick some.
What do you name a team from Tasmania? Tasmanian Tarzans?
Tasmanian Devils, I think, would be fitting.
Tasmanian Devils would be great. Maybe Tasmanian brothers or sisters.
Cousins, yeah.
Cousins.
Islanders, maybe. Yeah. I think I like Tasmanian Devils. But
let us know in the comments what you would name a Tasmanian team.
But speaking of AFL versus NRL, everyone always puts shit on the NRL for not being a national sport. And it is. It's only played in New South Wales, Queensland, and Melbourne.
Rarely Melbourne.
Rarely Melbourne.
Victoria,
yeah, say that to Lord Volandis, but are the AFL going to Las Vegas anytime soon?
They don't need to because they can go to places in Australia where it's actually the national sport. I think going to Tasmania just solidifies why the AFL probably has a brighter future than the NRL. Being in Tasmania, being in Perth, being in Queensland, and now South Australia as well.
Well, give me a reason to go down to Tasmania. I've never been to Hobart. I've only heard nothing but great things.
Yeah.
So I ask, can this stadium be a state-of-the-art facility
yeah, they are.
that encloses?
They're going to put a roof on it. It's going to be the first, I think, stadium in Tasmania that's got a roof, and it's going to be, I think, about a 30,000 seat stadium. So it'll be a world-class facility, unlike New South Wales that don't know how to put roofs on their stadiums.
The first world-class facility in Tasmania.
Yeah.
Facility, yeah.
Well, it's an interesting talking point, and it's got the politicians involved, but it's done, it's dusted. They've got the funding for it, so I guess we'll see it in 2029.
Happy for Tasmania.
Good on you, Tassie. Now we're going over to Magic Round. Magic Round this week. It's going to be the talk of the weekend. We might be down there. We'll see how we go. It's going to be, again, they're calling it the dads on tour because it's an excuse for the dads to get away from the family, go down there with their mates. It's pretty much the dad schoolies. That's what they're calling it on social media. But it's always makes for great footy. Fans get around it down Caxton Street in Brisbane. So we're going to go through our Magic Round tips and picks. You can take a look at our tips online at Jon-Bernard K or at Picklebet. We'll be putting out our multi each week. But Jaden, let's go through Magic Round and see where we're going this week.
Yeah, so obviously this week all games are played at Suncorp, so no home and away teams. So we've got opening up Friday night, 6 p.m. game, Bulldogs versus Canberra.
Bulldogs coming off a win. Canberra getting emotional last week off their win. I don't think there's many bigger ins and outs. Kyle Flanagan's still going to be in New South Wales Cup.
I think Bulldogs, yes, they got the win last week, but they won't be good enough to beat Canberra. Canberra were good in the first half last week, lackluster in the second half. So I'll take Canberra here.
And it's a very short turnaround for the Bulldogs as well. They played a Sunday game. Now they're going to be playing Friday night in Brisbane as well. So I'm going to go Canberra as well.
Xavier Savage, back from his broken jaw, suffered in the trials. He's been named on the wing, but most likely you'd end up throwing him at fullback with Chris going back into the centres. And
Richard's taken the Bulldogs as well.
I don't know why my dad's taken the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Usually he hates them and doesn't tip them. But it's another thing. I'm just going to increase my lead in tipping.
Okay, Manly versus the Broncos again. Is that Friday night clash as well?
Friday night clash.
So Manly Broncos, look, with Turbo there, Turbo back, no Schuster as well.
No Schuster.
Jake Trbojevic also out.
Again, you got to think Suncorp Stadium. They're going to have that hometown advantage. I'm going Brisbane.
You know what the dumbest thing here is? This is categorised as a Manly home game.
Doesn't make sense.
This is so slack. How do you verse Brisbane
at Suncorp as a home game?
So just on that, they're not losing at Suncorp. I'll take Brisbane here, probably comfortably.
You and I are taking the Broncos. Richard's
he's taking Broncos.
He's taking Broncos. Late change in the tip.
Late change.
Ezra Mam and Payne Haas also both back.
That's massive.
Yeah. Next were Warriors versus Penrith. Will Penrith lose 3 in a row?
I can't see Penrith losing 3 in a row.
I don't want to make it a thing of tipping against the Warriors each and every week.
We are getting rinsed on social media because we consistently go against the Warriors. We were right to do it last week. The Roosters didn't let them score a try.
I've been right the last 2 weeks in a row.
Where we got it wrong was the Cowboys going up to New Zealand. We shouldn't have backed the Cowboys. In hindsight, the Cowboys are absolute garbage this season. They can't string a good half of footy together.
Both of these teams are coming off 2 losses as well, so it's.
I think you back the more
I
experienced
take Penrith
team.
coming off 2 losses as opposed to Warriors.
I don't think you can back top teams to lose 3 games in a row. And I think Penrith here, not desperate for a win, but they just want to prove a point, and they'll probably win comfortably as well.
I guess we'll see. I bet you Penrith will be featuring in your multi this week because you get them at a good rate.
I think that's for them at $1.40. So for them to be in my multi is a guarantee.
Who do we got next?
Next game, Sharks versus Dolphins.
I'm going Cronulla, keeping the momentum up. Nico Hines looking to get into that Origin team. The Dolphins can't play a good first half of footy.
Yeah.
So I'm going with how Cronulla have been playing. Good brand of footy. Craig Fitzgibbon coming out this week and saying he's going to rein some players in as well that have gone a bit too out. I'm going to take Ronaldo again to get into the corner. So I'm going Cronulla.
Yeah, I think Dolphins haven't been good against average opposition, so they're not going to be that good against the Sharks. It's Sharks from everyone here.
This is probably the toughest game of the round.
Yeah, next game, Melbourne versus the Rabbitohs.
Storm Rabbitohs. I'm going to go the Rabbitohs.
I think this is a tough one to pick because Storm aren't full strength and the Rabbitohs are.
But they had the week off with the bye.
But they've had the week off, and I think they beat them already this year. Storm have beat the Rabbitohs, so I'm going to take the Storm to beat them twice this year. I just think Rabbitohs are on too big of a high. They're due for a loss, and Melbourne's, I think, due for a good game against a big team. I'll take Money Munster for a try and Melbourne to win.
I'm going the Rabbitohs strictly to compete with you in the tips. But also, I just think they can keep the momentum up. Latrell's playing a good brand of footy. He's been their spark out the back. It's taken 2-3 players to get him down on the line. Damien Cook as well, out of dummy half, showing some really good spark. He's a shoo-in for an Origin selection. I don't know if he comes in off the bench, but I'm going to go the Rabbitohs this week.
Dad's taken the Storm as well, so he's tipped with me.
Okay. Next game of the round in the Tigers versus Dragons.
I'm going to go Tigers to go back-to-back. Do you remember last season when Jackson Hastings kicked the field goal and there was that game where they had just missed out on winning and scraping a win and they won the following week?
Yeah.
I think they're going to back it up and they're going to win 2 in a row here.
I think loser maybe could be odds-on favourite to win the wooden spoon.
100%.
So I think Dragons dropping Lomax and Jacob Little is very stupid. I don't understand that. I think it's Anthony Griffin being desperate. Probably not the right time to discipline players, but I'll take the Dragons here strictly because I don't think the Tigers have a good lineup. Yes, they've been playing well, but I think just Brandon Wakeham at 5'8" just doesn't do it for me. I just don't think they've got they don't have the squad to win consistently. So
well, it'll be either team 1 to 12, and my call, and you can clip this up to go out next week, is West Tigers win this game. Anthony Griffin gets sacked on the Monday after.
And that probably should happen if you lose to the Tigers.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Next game, we've got Roosters versus Cowboys. Are Cowboys going to find some form, or are they? Is there a cross through their name?
They'll be dead for a bit. Maybe post-Origin they'll
Chad
find
Townsend
form.
in or out?
Chad Townsend named.
So I don't know. It's in Brisbane.
Just Nanai's out.
Nanai's out. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Well, unless
against the Cowboys. I can't tip him.
Unless they can score 3 tries on Drew Hutchinson playing centre, maybe they're a chance, but I'll take the Roosters, and Dad's taking Roosters as well.
I'm going the Roosters, and Sam Walker still to be omitted from the team the following week.
Last game of the round is Gold Coast versus Parramatta.
This is an extremely tough game. I think Gold Coast are a good team and can cause an upset here.
Yeah, but with AJ Brimson out, I'm going Parramatta.
And Ryan Madison back.
I think Parramatta are putting together a good string of games. They're probably one of the informed teams at the moment. Winning last week against the Knights very convincingly was nice to see. I'll take them on the back of that to win here as well. So I'll take the Eels, and Dad's taking the Eels as well.
Yeah, I'm taking Eels in a 13-plus comfortable win.
I would like to highlight, though, updated tipping standings.
Yep.
So I've tipped 48 from 72. Bernard, you've tipped 42, and Dad's tipped 42. So I'm 6 ahead.
Yeah, and loser of the tips does have to get a full-body 40-year-old virgin wax on camera for content, so stay tuned for those results. I'm going to catch up to him, and we're going to count Origin games as well. But the Newcastle Knights getting a bye this year. They're the first team to miss out on Magic Round. Pretty rough for them. Everyone wants to be a part of Magic Round and the hype around it. It's also been talks of which teams would be going to Las Vegas when they do it next year. Apparently, the Manly Seagulls are guaranteed, and the South Sydney Rabbitohs are guaranteed as well.
They've said because
Roosters will be there as well.
I think Roosters have to be there as well with the star power, but they've got that there because Russell Crowe will go up there with the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and Hugh Jackman goes up there with the Manly Seagulls. So who are the next two teams? Melbourne have put a bidding as well. So that's going to be interesting.
I think it's going to be Melbourne and the Roosters. Or Penrith.
I think they're really talking this into existence. And pull my arm, we're going to have to go to Vegas and watch the NRL there, boys.
I mean, I'm not going to be opposed to it. I just don't see the reason for it.
Surely you just go the top 4 or something, like something that just makes
provide
sense
some
in
sort of
terms
incentive
quality
to
You
Yeah,
want the
rugby league.
biggest fan bases going there, the teams that are going to make a trip out of it, and the teams that are going to provide the most star power.
It's just the teams with the biggest degenerate fans to head over to Vegas.
Exactly right.
I think that's why you got to put the Roosters in there because they're the most cash.
Moving on to the NBA playoffs, we're now in the second round. It's been a very interesting
First round.
A lot of upsets. Milwaukee gone. Sacramento being a surprise as well.
Losing in 7, very tough pill to swallow.
The
if you're a
Lakers
Sacramento
now
fan.
in
Memphis gone.
The Lakers now going up against the Golden State it's going to be a very interesting second round. What's your highlight of the second round, Nick?
Highlight of the second round will be LeBron versus Steph. People have been begging for this since obviously the 3 in a row NBA finals back 16, 17, 18.
Who are you taking?
I'll take Golden State in 7. I just don't think the Lakers match up well against Golden State. They won't be able to keep up with them offensively. If Anthony Davis can play well and stay healthy, that's what's going to be the key to the series. But looking back at LeBron and the Lakers beating Memphis, they made easy work of them. LeBron came out on Twitter and says, if you ever see me fighting a bear in the woods, help the bear.
I like a LeBron active on Twitter. Like you saw what that happened in the last series. He got agitated, and you saw the best of LeBron. The points he was putting up. I think this Lakers team, if they stay healthy, and that's been the talk of the playoffs, injuries.
Yeah.
Chris Paul just went down injured today.
Joel Embiid hasn't been playing.
Joel Embiid. You saw Giannis was out for Milwaukee. That definitely made an impact
Tyler
on
Hero
on
broke
that.
his hand.
Kawhi Leonard was out for
Paul
George. So it really comes down to the team with the most depth could go on to win the finals.
I think looking at the Golden State Lakers series, Steve Kerr has never lost a Western Conference playoff series.
He's 19-0.
He's only ever lost in the finals, so he's 19-0 in
That's
playoff
a
series.
massive stat.
So I think history is probably going against LeBron right now. But if there's one player that has an edge over Steph, I think it's going to be LeBron. Beating them 3-1 probably still haunts Steph and Clay. So I think having that in the back of their mind, LeBron probably has that confidence as well.
I don't think the NBA minds if either team goes through because it's Steph and
They
Clay.
prefer the Lakers.
Yeah,
LeBron's
they would
more
prefer
interesting.
an LA and Lakers and LeBron
Golden
being
State
the
were
face
there
of the
last
NBA.
year as well.
I guess we'll see, but you can't really argue with Steve Kerr's record. Yeah. And then you've got the likes of the Phoenix Suns, 2-0.
They're down 2-0, which is very tough to swallow. But Denver are a number 1 seed, and they've won their home games. This shouldn't be too unexpected. If Phoenix go ahead and just win their 2 home games, hold service, it's back to 2-2, and it's like nothing's happened. They probably have momentum.
The Chris Paul curse, though. I mean, he cannot shake this monkey off his back. He continues to get injured during playoff games.
Yeah, he's always injured.
You know what I mean? And if he cannot get to the finals this year with Kevin Durant by his side, throw in the towel. He'll never win an NBA championship.
Yeah, no, I think this would be Chris Paul's last chance. I think the only thing with them is they've got no bench, and Durant's only been there for about 21 games. He's only lost 2-3 games, mind you, but in saying that, Denver have made easy work of them in the first 2 games. Nikola Jokic has been the best player on the floor. For Jamal Murray to score 8 points today and Nikola Jokic to carry that team to a win, it's looking dangerous for Phoenix. I've tipped them to win the NBA Finals, so it's very rough for them to go down 2-0. I don't like it. It makes me look dumb. I don't like it at all.
Does Jokic get MVP?
Nah, Embiid's probably got it. That's because they don't want to give it to a player 3 times in a row.
Who do you
He
think,
deserves it.
Yeah, who do you think gets through out of Philly and Boston, considering Philly just won in Boston today?
Philly upsetting Boston in Game 1 with
That
no
was
Embiid
huge.
is huge. I still think Boston win in 6. I just think they're the better team. They'll shake off this Game 1 and just go forward. And if Embiid's not healthy and playing, it's going to
He'll
do
be
a
back.
disservice to Philadelphia.
I'm going to go Boston in 7.
Yeah, it's not a bad tip. It's one of the, and I think whoever wins this series goes to the NBA Finals in the East.
And mind you, I'm going for Boston just for content purposes. Like we said, we're going to be there for the NBA Finals, hopefully on the west side starting, maybe in an LA or a Phoenix. And then we're going to go over to the east side, hopefully see Boston in action. If Boston get through to the finals, I think this is their year for the championship.
I just don't think they've got, but beyond Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like they're just lackluster.
How do they match up against Phoenix, for example, where you've got KD, Booker against those two players, and then the remainder of the.
You know what
squad,
the
I
thing
think
is with
still
Phoenix
stronger.
though? DeAndre Ayton needs to stop being a bitch. He's just a pussy
Did you see
out
that
there,
video
bro.
of KD rebounding with who was it with Jokic?
Maybe, I don't know.
And Ayton was standing there.
Bro, he's just
allowing
so
KD to do
soft.
everything.
Just for someone that's a #1 overall pick, 7 feet tall, probably has a good muscle mass just from looking at him. You should be able to dominate other players on the floor, whether it be blocking, whether it be dunking on people. Just like pull your finger out.
Well, definitely keep an eye out for JBK show on tour. We'll be heading to the States for the NBA Finals. That should be very interesting. Those that are tuning in on the live definitely will know firsthand. Now, I want to call out the drafts. The NFL just went through their draft. It's always a talk of the town, but something that doesn't get a lot of credit. The WWE draft, where superstars get drafted over to SmackDown or Raw. Everyone was on deck for this year's draft, including NXT superstars. And why I want to call that out is Australia were on the map this WWE draft. Daniel Vito finally getting drafted to SmackDown. Grayson Waller, another Aussie, getting drafted to SmackDown as well. Indy Hartwell, who's the current NXT Championship, another Aussie, got drafted. Aussies are taking over the WWE. You've got Bronson Reed, who's on the main roster as well.
Competing for a US champion.
Another Aussie. And you've also got the current women's champion, Rhea Ripley, who's an Aussie. So Aussies are now officially on the map in WWE as superstars. It's only a matter of time before we see a WWE NXT Australia, which I think we'll be signing up as a tag team.
I think it's only a matter of time before me and you fight Logan and Jake Paul in a tag team match at WrestleMania.
Look, I'll take a managerial role. I'll take a Michael Cole, Pat McAfee role on commentary. But I just like to see, Aussies getting their name on there in WWE. They're making a massive impact. Daniel Vito played at the Canberra Raiders, played at the Brisbane Broncos as a steamrolling
Dragons.
Samoan winger. And now he makes his debut on the main roster as Zion Quinn. I'm keen to see how he goes, but Grayson Waller, who's been the star of NXT, been kind of in the, giving Shawn Michaels a hard time. Can you believe that? A guy from Survivor giving Shawn Michaels, one of the greats, a hard time. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they go on the main roster. Aussie, they're getting it done in WWE.
It's awesome to see it. I know people don't really like to watch wrestling anymore. It's not as popular as what it used to be. But seeing these Aussie wrestlers come through and not only just be there, they're actually competing for titles. Rhea Ripley's the champion. Bronson Reed's probably going to win a US title in the coming months. So it's nice to see. And Grayson Waller, I expect him to take over as well.
He's a massive star. He knows how to talk shit. He's got that. He's
got natural charisma.
He's the best Aussie promo that I've seen. You've had superstars like Buddy Murphy, Daniel Vito, even the Iconics, the 2 Aussie girls that were tag team champions at one stage. Emma as well. He's by far the best, most entertaining Aussie promo. So best of luck to him. I reckon his following is going to skyrocket. Go look at his Instagram following now. It's probably around like 70, 80K. By SummerSlam, it'll be around 200,000. He's a freak.
I'm looking forward to it.
So that is our prime time for the week.
Going into Endeavour's better side of the company in the UFC, we've got Aljamain Sterling versus Henry Cejudo coming back this weekend.
Cejudo making a return.
Yeah, who do you think's winning that?
No, I think Cejudo.
Bro, Sterling came out and was like, I'm going to win this, then I'm going to go up a weight and win another fight. I don't know, who's the champion? I think he's going to beat Volkanovski, he said.
Cejudo is not coming out of retirement to lose a fight.
It's like John Jones. So John Jones did his full fight camp with Cejudo in his camp.
Gave him great advice.
Yeah, he did. He did. But I don't think that someone with that much experience will come back out of retirement to lose.
And Aljamain Sterling's known as being a shit champ.
Again, Olympic gold medalist in Cejudo. He's a freak. even I appreciate his analysis. Coming from like, the casual fans, you really anticipate what he's going to say. I'm pretty sure he predicted exactly how the John Jones fight was going to go, like word for word. So the guy's a freak. I think he wins there. He's not coming back. Again, yes, it's for money purposes. You could see how much money, if you can cut a promo and sell fights. Cejudo's going to be doing that consistently. So I'm going Cejudo in that fight. But it's going to be very interesting. I'd like to see, maybe you'll see us at a UFC.
I think that's Cejudo all round.
Yeah.
I don't see Aljamain Sterling being able to match it with him.
But that's prime time for the week. Make sure you check us out on our socials at Jon-Bernard K. We're live on Pickle Studios today and at the JBK Show on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe. But keep in mind, big weekend of sports. Good luck with your Magic round. Good luck with your tips and your bets this week. And take it easy. There you go.